Hey, welcome, y'all! Hey! That's right. This is the Pre-Game Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 68 for Friday, October 21st, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined in the Pre-Game Engineer Tailgate Mayor Podcast studio by Pre-Game Engineer Andrew Sherwin. Sherwin, nice shirt, buddy.
Hey, yeah, it's remarkably similar to the one you're wearing, I would say.
Same shape, same size, same lettering.
Is it soft? Mine's quite soft.
It feels real good, actually. I'm glad you mentioned soft, because for a cotton shirt or blend or whatever it is, it's
nice.
really
nice.
A+. Jordan,
what the hell are we doing on a Friday?
I don't know what we're doing. Well, I know we're doing a little bit of drinking. We're doing a little bit of podcasting. We're having a little fun. Like we tend to do.
Hell yeah, we are. I think I just saw Mr. Jeffrey Whitler showed up on the Periscope.
All right. Welcome.
Saw a very cute picture of him and person in question.
Yeah, our Jordan Anderson
or
Racing.
His daughter, actually.
66 shirts. So
yeah, so
if you ain't got you one yet, go on to sponsorjordan.com and get his T-shirt. It's pretty sweet. Like most of my T-shirts consist of college or before at this point, right?
Sure.
Because, I mean, that's when else would I have really gotten T-shirts? So I'm starting to try to rebuild my collection a little bit, let go of some old stuff, get some new stuff in.
Yes.
And every time I get a new one, I'm like, oh, man, no, I love this shirt. This shirt's
I think
great.
this is the new thing, because my Wheeler Walker Jr. shirt is real soft like this,
Oh,
too.
yeah, okay. So they figured something out in the last
somebody
15,
learned
20 years
something.
since I bought a T-shirt.
Learned with a T on the end of it. Learned something.
Well, y'all know how we always start this thing, but we're not going to start it that way this time. Because this time, we have a very special guest on the show. We've already talked to him, so we're going to drop that in here in a little bit.
Heck yeah, we are.
And we'll introduce him at that point. But before we get to that, let's talk about the car number.
By the numbers.
By the numbers. It's number 68 for us. We're fixing to be in 70, a septuagenarian podcast.
Old people.
I
think that's what you're trying to say.
Right. We're going to be old podcasters by then. But car number 68. It's episode 68.
My parents are 68.
Car number 68. Well, hello. We should have brought one of them on.
I know.
Right? So, car number 68, probably most famously driven by Bobby Hamilton Sr. himself. And guess how many races he raced in the number 68 car?
69?
Nope, 68.
Oh!
But real close.
Dang it, I was trying to be a dirty high schooler.
Well, you can do that next week with the episode number. But 68 races in the 68. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is randomly perfect.
I think by the time that I really got into the series, he was starting to get into trucks and moved over into that and took a sponsor there and all that. He was one of the first guys I was rooting for in trucks and all that. So, what all is there to say about Bobby Hamilton? But
well, bless his soul.
Bless his soul.
Start right there.
Yep.
Or finish there. However we're doing.
I have another one.
Good.
Mr. Bob Darrington.
Heard about him.
Bob
Darrington. A little bit. Not a whole lot. What do you got to say about him?
Well, he raced over 3 seasons, 64 to 66. Had 71 races in the number 68.
So it's 68 plus 3.
Yep, exactly. He led 1 lap in his career.
Hey, that's an important lap in that man's career.
He passed away at age 80 in 2011, so we're raising a glass of him right quick.
Goodness.
Cheers to you, buddy.
Full life right there.
Yep.
80 years old.
But quick story, I went online and I was doing some digging, and I found what I thought was a pretty funny story. There's a book out there called Declarations of Stock Car Independence. And
interesting.
It and independent, like with a TS at the end instead of independence, like
as in no affiliation to any other thing.
Exactly. So they're interviewing all these independent drivers over the years, and I found a great interview with a fellow named Jimmy Helms. You know Jimmy Helms?
I do not. Hopefully
I've heard that name before. Well, I've heard that name before. He's a driver. All that matters is that Jimmy Helms, at the end of one of the races, it looks like in July. Daytona 4th of July. His door was
400.
Yeah, his door was all wrinkled up real bad, and he had to go get a new one. And so he went over to the Ford dealership. This is back when, we're talking about stock cars, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, you just take the door right off.
Yep. Well, so he goes back to he calls up the Ford place. Says
there was actually hinges and stuff.
Yeah. He says, I need a new door. And Ford place said, oh, yeah, we got one. We got one in stock. Come get it. And so he went to go get it, and they said, "Oh yeah, your door skin came in, and somebody picked it up for you already." And he said, "The hell did somebody picked it up for me?" He said, "Yeah, a fellow named Bob Darrington came in here and picked it up for you." And he said, "That son of a bitch."
Stole his door.
Stole his door out from under him. He ended up going and buying a gallon of Bondo and tried to fix up his own door while Bob Darrington's got a brand new door out there. He goes over to Bob and says, "Bob, where'd you get that door?" And Bob said, "Wouldn't you know it, the Ford dealership had one in stock."
Son of a gun. Oh man, I've been mattered, and I don't even know. I can't say the words I won't say right now.
That's right. I love that.
I'd be
story.
mad enough to spit. That's what my grandmother would say.
I love that too, by the way. I started using that once you told me that. I love that one. So there's a book that I might have to go get me one of, Declarations of Stock Car Independence. Interviews with 12 racers.
Well, hopefully I can get my act together and finish up running with the devils or whatever that thing. Driving with the devils, so you can read that one. But yeah, maybe you go get that one and read it. I'll finish up driving with the devil and we'll swap.
That sounds like a great idea. Do a little PETM book swap.
Swap.
Yep, we'll
NASCAR nonfiction.
We'll have wine and talk about the book and all that.
As long as it's red. No white Zinfandel.
All right.
Please. And steaks. Medium rare steaks.
Medium rare steaks. Sounds good. Before we go too far down that hole, let's bring it in. We've got a guest. I think we introduced him in the drop-in right here. So without further ado, here's Rusty and Sherwin from the past, and they're going to talk to you.
Oh, yeah. We're going back to the future.
Yeah, with a ARCA Truck Series race car driver. So here they are, and we'll talk to you all in a bit. Guess what? Rusty sucks at double-clicking on things. So, take two right here.
Take two.
This is amateurs, y'all. Amateur hour.
Amateur hour.
Here it is.
Woo!
Drop it in. All right, y'all. We got Brad Yunker with Yunker Motorsports on the show today. He's the driver of the number 30 truck in the ARCA Truck Series. Brad, how you doing today?
Not too bad. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. Sherwin?
It's Friday, man.
Yes,
How could I
sir.
be doing, this is as good as it gets as far as the week
It
goes.
sure is. A strange day for us. Actually, this is becoming more routine for us, I guess. But
well, doing it on a weird day certainly has.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So, we start the show off the same way every time. Got to ask you, Mr. Brad Yunker, what you drinking today?
Oh, probably not anything too interesting. I have a bottle of water right now.
Bottle of water? I think that
might be winning the tally at this point for guests.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had at least a couple drivers. Them drivers got to stay hydrated, man.
Certainly Jordan
Hydrated.
on the last show had a bottle of water.
Yep.
Aquafina, if I remember correctly.
It's 16.9
plugging that
ounce
Pepsi
yes,
sponsor.
Yep. I think Weaver might have had one or two as well. Sherwin, what are you drinking on?
I have a very classic-looking white can of Miller Lite.
Yes, sir. Very well done. And tell us what you brought over.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, at some
studio.
point, probably during this show, it'll sipped out of the bottle, is the the recommendation from Miss Juliet Miranda, the Old Granddad 114, which is kind of a not too expensive bourbon, but high proof and certainly
we had a little nip of it
pretty
earlier.
Interesting.
Real tasty. So I've got a quick and funny story, sad story maybe, about what you're drinking. And it happened to me just prior to coming to the podcast studio today. So I was, me and the Frizz 11, our esteemed producer, we were at the local wing joint down here, the wing factory, and this new girl come up, and now at the wing factory, they got one of them chalkboards. It's got all the beers on it, And so I didn't know what the Monday Night Blind Pirate was. Because I've heard their eye patch and this other stuff. I ain't been keeping up lately, man. There's so many beers now to try. So I didn't know what style it was. I didn't know if it was all I want to know was, is this going to be something I like, or is this like their weird, wheat foot Belgian something wacko?
Deep pop.
Yeah. So anyway, I said, what's the style on the Blind Pirate? And she goes, I'm sorry, I don't know. I need to go check, right? So she goes and checks at the bar. Takes her 60 seconds, 120 seconds, however long it takes. She comes back and she goes, it's a beer. And that was it. I stared at her and I said, you went to the bar to find out that it's a beer? I knew this much. You got to be kidding. So there you go. I had
it's Friday anecdote right there. Beer anecdote.
Yeah, no kidding. So I actually ordered a Hopsecutioner. Terrapin. I was like, just don't. I'm not even gonna
for sure.
Go any further.
Just get the Blind Pirate next time. By the way,
I'll do that. So anyway, this show's all about Brad. I wanted to make sure I dropped that one in there. But Brad, racing in that ARCA Truck series. Tell us about. So first off, tell us about that series, because I think it's a series that not a lot of us are too familiar with. So maybe, some of the places where you race at, what the trucks are like, what the difference is between, those obviously other than being a truck, but, the difference between that and the car series that ARCA does. So just turning the reins over to you. Tell us about the series a little bit.
Well, there's quite a bit of difference than the cars. First of all, we run a V6 or a crate V8 engine in them. So we're pushing probably about a little over 400 horsepower. But the trucks also only weigh 2,400 pounds.
Okay. Wow.
Wow, that's light.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty light and they're quick. The good thing is that with that lower horsepower, we run 10-inch tires, so they're pretty stable. I've driven both. The trucks are good. It's a very difficult vehicle to drive sometimes. I've driven both in one day, and the cars by far were like a Cadillac compared to the trucks.
How about that?
Oh yeah, you got to do a little bit more. Even when you have more tire on it, you still got to do a little bit more driving with it.
So what's it like? Does it get squirrelier on you, or is it just harder to drive all around?
It's just harder to drive all around. A little bit. I think the wheelbase is 6 inches shorter, and I think about 6 inches narrower.
So it wants to pivot. Right rear wants to kick out a little bit easier, huh?
A little bit, but that's actually right. Kind of works out well for me. So I like things on the looser side, coming from dirt for so many years.
Oh,
sure.
Well,
absolutely.
Great segue. Tell us about yourself, then, Brad. What's your story? Where you come from? Where you been? And what you doing?
Well, I started out about 14 or 15 years old, working on a sprint car for a friend of my dad's, who used to sneak me into the go-kart races. And have me race his go-karts for him, and then without telling my parents.
Oh, wow. Not just sneak you in, but sneak you in to drive it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I used to spend weekends with him during the summer. And then he'd sneak me into the car to run hot laps with the sprint car. And we just kind of rolled on from there. Pretty soon I'd bought my own sprint cars and started running around all over with that. Then I jumped into the truck series because at the time the trucks used to run asphalt, dirt, and road courses.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so we it was a lot of fun, and over the years I've had a lot of fun at a lot of different tracks with the trucks. So just kind of hung around with it after that.
Well, cool. So we've just finished up the 2016 season. In the ARCA Truck Series, and you've had some ups and downs, but I would say, based on the point standing, mostly success. Tell us about what that's been like.
Yeah, I think it was success for the crew and for everybody involved. Disappointing for myself, but the 3 DNFs we had really hurt us, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It was just mechanical failures that never happened. So, but the rest of the time we just did what we had to do and kept ourselves up there. I was actually surprised because I quit looking at points after the 3rd DNF. I didn't even look at the points the rest of the year, and they told me at the end of the year where I finished.
And where did you finish?
Finished 3rd this year.
3rd overall. Wow! Congratulations on that. I mean, that's that's excellent right there.
We did finish in the top. We finished in the top 5 in every race that we finished.
I was reading a cool story. I think it was a wrap-up story that was written that is on your Facebook page there, and maybe on your website. And it had said in the last race, you had to pit for something early on, and that put you at the tail end of the whole thing, and then drove it right back up into had a top 5 out of that one.
Yeah, we got into one of the other trucks towards the end of the race with about 40 laps to go, and it bent the toe out about 2 inches and messed up some of the bodywork. So they tore off some of the bodywork to get that out of the way of the wheels, and then but I had to kind of suffer through the toe out for the rest. So basically, I was on 3 wheels for the rest of the race, and we just kind of hung on.
Just close your eyes and make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I could have. I mean, from what I had watching the guys that were in front of me and stuff, we could have easily turned it into at least a second place truck still.
Wow.
But
so one of the things that intrigued me about what I read and what you've already said, so the listeners will get, they'll get to hear it, is that your motor platform is either V6 or a crate V8. And so there's a couple of questions I have with that. Okay. The first is, and I'll ask them both and then I'll let you respond. The first is, so if the V6 is not a crate, does that mean you get to do a significant amount of tuning on it? And then for the crate V8, how much difference do you see in throttle response? And does that mean you're picking throttle up later or earlier in the corner, depending on the engine package, lifting earlier or sooner, depending on which? Earlier or sooner? That's the same thing, Andrew. Earlier or later, and which engine package do you drive it deeper in? Which gives you better throttle response, and which one are you allowed to tune on more?
Right. Well, and unfortunately, I had to run both engines this year. So, but the V6, they have specific rules. Deeper inside the engine than I can, I guess, say. That's why I have them shipped out. But,
sure, gotcha.
They are limited on certain areas. The V6 is limited to 6,800 RPM. 2-barrel carburetors, limited on some of the head work you can do, and so it's a little past basic, but it's about as far as it's going to go.
Gotcha.
Is that computer limited on the revs?
Yes. They if you depending on what your ignition system is, the series supplies a chip for you before every race, and you have to stick with that.
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
So, as the driver, when you mash the throttle, which engine package would you prefer to drive?
Probably the crate V8. It has a lot more torque coming off the corners on restarts and during the race, and it's not a far superior engine to the V6, but I always put it as it gives you a little more cushion on the track. Mm-hmm. You can use the throttle a little bit more to save you if there's a mistake or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Just like out on the highway.
You can be in a smaller spot with the V8. Is that what you're saying? You have a window of reaction time with the V8 that you don't have with the V6.
Yes, the V6 is basically, it's a momentum engine, and once you get wound up, you really need to keep it going as much as you can.
Gotcha.
So you talked about, or I don't know if you talked about, but I know one of the tracks. The last track that we were talking about, that last race, was at Lake County Speedway up in Ohio, if I looked everything up right. Tell us about some of the tracks you race at, and what's your favorite track to race at?
Well, Lake County is probably the smallest track I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
What's the size of that one?
It's just under a quarter.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. There's you don't put a brand new body on and go to that track.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I've come out of there with half a truck quite a few times.
Wow.
So, yeah, that one's smaller. My favorite one would probably be Mid-Ohio.
Okay. Everybody knows that one.
Getting introduced to the road course racing was so much fun, and I just had a blast with it every time we did it.
Yeah, and you said you've done road course stuff ever since you got into the truck series, right? Because they used to do dirt and road and everything.
Yeah, we used to run the road course at VIR, and then they moved. They took a couple years off from the road courses, and then they moved it to Mid-Ohio. I would say that's one of my favorites. My other one would probably be Winchester Speedway over in Indiana.
Okay, what's the size on that one?
It is half-mile track, banked, I believe, 36 degrees.
Holy moly!
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
The
right.
bowl.
That's the one that other one that claims is the fastest. Is that like the fastest half mile on dirt, or is that also paved?
That's paved.
Okay. Yeah, they make a similar claim to Bristol about being real fast.
Yeah. Well,
This one, I would put it up against Bristol just about any day. I've seen sprint cars going around there at probably 178 miles an hour.
good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're running like 12s.
Yeah.
Wow.
The last I checked. Now we have a half-mile track here at Toledo Speedway. I think that's banked 19 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And they're running, I think, 12s and 13s there with the sprint cars.
Wow.
That's super fast.
Still significant.
Yeah.
No
Oh, yeah.
kidding.
That's G-force fast.
So you said a little bit of something about them, but let's talk about your crew for a second. What guys are working on the cars, while you're in between races and working on the cars and engines and stuff, and what guys are working on the cars during the race?
Well, this year, I had actually the 2015 Truck Series champion was my crew chief. He was working on them at the shop and at the track. I actually have a flagman from ARCA. He was a flagman for ARCA for 25 or 35 years. And he retired a couple of years ago and decided he wanted to go racing again. So he's my spotter now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Rich has been doing a lot of the PR stuff, and we just kind of throw him in wherever, and he does what he can when he's not working up T-shirts or anything else like
so
that.
he's working Twitter and working a wrench, huh?
That's right. Yep. And then I've had my daughter comes and occasionally gives us a hand with some things.
Oh, that's cool.
Most of the time she does a lot of videotaping and stuff like that, and tries to just kind of stay involved with it.
Gotcha. And you talked about your crew chief. I think his name Jeff Myers, right? Pigpen is what I've been told.
Geez.
Everybody calls him.
That's what we hear.
Oh, we got the inside scoop on you, Bubba.
Wow. Yeah, I've made him take a shower in the outside shower of the motorhome.
Awesome. So you said he was the 2015. So I mean, we're talking about last year. ARCA Truck Champion. How'd you get hooked up with him? Did he retire after that, or just want to?
He was actually driving the truck that I'm driving right now.
Okay.
And he took a year. He didn't think he was going to be able to run the whole season because of school, because he's in college right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we made a deal with his truck owner, and he was a good friend of mine too. We kind of made a deal that we would finish this out, and he would just come and work for us. So he kind of landed in my lap there, and I figured at the beginning of the season, it started out where I was just, the truck, just take care of it. And I think probably by about halfway through the season, we were teaching each other a few things about. So we kind of had to step up and teach him a few things.
That's really neat.
After that.
Let's talk about what else you have for him, Sherwin. What plans do you have for the off season? So right now, the season just ended. What are you doing next?
Mine started on Monday, where a friend of mine decided we were going to the gym every day of the week.
Oh, boy.
So right now we're spending 2 hours a day in the gym.
That's pretty impressive commitment there.
Yeah.
I'll give you a clap for that.
Yeah. Hopefully see
I'm
results
paying
out
for
on the
it.
track, too. Like we see all these NASCAR guys doing like crazy.
Yeah.
We always ask every guest the same thing at the end. I know we hadn't talked about NASCAR very much in this chat, but
Purposefully.
but we always ask what the one thing that you would change about NASCAR is, and we always say that could be butts in the seats, eyeballs on the TV, or make the track more fun for a driver or for anybody. What's the one thing that you'd like to see happen in NASCAR?
I'd like to see it opened up for the fans a little bit more. The way racing's been going, and it's kind of taken a downward spiral a little bit. I'd like to see them bring it back to more of a level that where it came from, where people can enjoy a little bit more.
Okay.
So from your perspective, what does that mean to you as a fan?
I'd like to see people be able to get maybe into the garage areas a little bit more, have more access, some type of association a little bit more with the drivers, I guess, other than having to do a 2-hour autograph session somewhere and having to stand in line and everything else like that.
So access, you'd like more access.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that. Do you have a favorite driver?
Yeah, but he's probably sitting at home still right now.
Gotcha. Understood.
Yeah.
Is he maybe going to be talking on the microphone this weekend?
I believe he is.
Okay.
I heard
Well, I think
something
we know
about
who that is.
Yeah.
I think we're excited about that, too. I'll probably have the volume on my TV up higher than I normally would.
Well, before we let you
that'll
go,
be interesting.
Tell everybody where they can find you, whether it's websites, Facebook, Twitter, all the above. Want to make sure people can reach out to you, get your swag, root you on, all that stuff.
All right. Yeah, we're on, I think everything is under Yunker Motorsports on Twitter, Facebook. I believe the website is also Yunker Motorsports. I'm the wrong person to ask all this stuff right now.
Yeah. We'll get
That's
Rich on
okay.
the phone
Yeah,
when he's not turning a wrench, right?
Yep.
Well, it's been great having you on, Brad,
But,
and we'll certainly be looking for you on TV if we can find is the Truck Series on TV? They run it.
I couldn't tell you for sure,
Yeah, not sure.
where or what they're doing these days or what's going on.
Well, we'll be rooting like hell once it starts, and
There you go.
for that number 30 and keep up with you and everything. So appreciate you being on, and we'll talk to you next time. All right.
All right, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Brad.
Well, that was cool.
That was really cool.
That was fun to have him on. Having folks, join us on here. When we started this whole thing, I mean, I think we've reached at this point. We've reached the epitome of where we, thought we could even be.
The precipice for sure.
Which is, hey, I'd just like to get into some of these drivers' heads, talk about things, talk about NASCAR with you like we always do, talk to the media guys that we already talked to at the tweet ups and stuff. So just really pulling from all directions. This, what can I say? Big bro hug and stuff. This is, it really gets my, the old gears spinning in Rusty's old head here.
Old Duder's head.
Yeah, old Duder's head.
Gears are spinning in old Duder's head.
A lot of satisfaction there, and I know, and I hope.
This may not be, it could be.
And I hope, but from what they're telling us, the drivers enjoy doing it too. So, what can I say? What a blast to talk to people, to sit down and talk to real drivers out there having fun and doing their thing.
Well, what's really cool about it is getting a chance to talk to somebody that's from a series that doesn't get the kind of exposure that we're normally used to talking about. Even though we've said over and over and over, we're not really doing journalism here. We're doing entertainment. But to get, to reach down into what appears to be a bag of racing that most people have not had a look at.
And there's so much of it.
And there's a ton of it. And to get Brad to pull some personality out, pull some, describing what the racing's like, and what it's like racing for a team like that. And ARCA trucks, which is such a different series. We heard the weight discrepancy. We heard him talk about how much, how the wider tire helps them do this, that, or the other.
I was surprised that they do both V6s and V8s in the same.
The fact that you could run a tuned V6 versus a crate V8. And how those things equate financially. Obviously, we didn't get to dive into that. It would be really fun to get his team manager, his business manager, to come in and say, what does that look like money-wise? Buy the V6 and tune it, because that feels like that motor probably has the ability to last longer with the rev limiter and that sort of thing. But then the V8, it's like, okay, so you can't tune torque. In a lot of ways. Like once you've built a motor, it has a certain torque profile. You can build into, especially a carbureted motor, a 2-barrel carbureted motor that already has a ton of air restriction. You can do a lot of tuning if you take some restrictions away from RPM band. But if you restrict at a really narrow RPM band, like it sounds like they do,
with the chips and
there's
stuff, which was really
do a lot. There's just not a lot you can do.
Which is kind of neat. Now it's down to driver, which obviously he's a drive from the back to the front when he needs to kind of guy. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and it sounds like he much preferred. And I wanted to get into comparing what he was talking about to Xfinity versus Cup in terms of, because that's what you hear some of that exact same rhetoric when comparing how they've restricted the Xfinity motor versus the Cup being basically wide open at this point.
Yeah.
They have a rev limiter, but they hit it. They basically only hit the rev limiter in qualifying at a couple of different tracks.
Yeah,
there's only a few, and so that's a different thing. That was really fun. It was a lot of fun to get some insight from somebody that we have. Like, there's so much distance between us, we don't even know how to describe it.
Right. Well, let's start tearing it down. You ready?
Let's tear it on down.
Well, we're tearing it down. Here it comes. Hello. There it is. Kansas. I picked Kansas at Kansas.
You picked Kansas?
Kansas at Kansas.
Kinzis?
Or Zous?
Zous. That's the one I like, personally. I can't remember if that's the one you like, too.
Leads 116 laps. I was sitting pretty tall on my couch while he's leading all them laps, and I had picked him. I was pretty. I wanted to blow the new horn. I wanted to blow the new horn that we have. That you got the inaugural horn blowing.
Yeah, I was not
picking the winner.
I was not a happy camper for 275 miles.
Right.
And then
Kansas finishes ninth, but your pick Logano finishes third. So that was pretty. Yeah,
perhaps resurrects an opportunity to transfer. We'll talk about that later.
Yep, we'll talk about that in a moment.
Fairly good pick though in the end.
I think both of them really.
I don't deserve a lot of credit for it. Pretty easy pick, in all honesty.
Well, yeah,
and I got to go first. So,
true. Here's something that maybe got some press or whatever. I saw it. It's Casey Kane, and I saw it on his Twitter. But I don't know who
on Twitter box?
Anybody was saying it's one of those. What is it? The number that can't be a number, stat that can't be true, kind of thing.
Oh, the fact that can't be a fact.
Yep, 6 top 10s in the last 7 races for Casey Kane,
and 10 straight top 14s.
Something like that.
An odd stat to pull, but that was, that was. ESPN Ryan McGee who provided that information.
Oh, cool.
So
cool.
Feels like there's some validity behind it.
Yeah.
What the hell's a top 14? Hey, Ryan McGee's talking about it, so hey.
So I'm not, that just means his worst was 14th at one point. But 12th at Dover was the 7th out of those 7, but 6 top 10s in the last 7 races. I think we talked about it either last week or 2 weeks ago and said, boy, if they just made like an 80-race season, Casey Kane just be in the groove now. Right where you want to be.
He'd be on the glide path to like 10 wins.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, hey, something else they announced, tearing it down, speaking of, Mexico. We're going to Mexico, boys. Woo!
Yeah. You boys like Mexico? Woo! We love Super Troopers, by the way, in case you can't tell. And Super Troopers 2 is still filming and will hit theaters, I think, sometime early spring.
Ooh, I'm gonna watch that a lot.
I pre-bought the ticket or whatever to get the crowdfund thing. I did that.
Yeah,
I wanted the movie to happen.
Well done. Yes, sir. But we're going to Mexico.
Rob Lowe is going to be in it, by the way.
Oh, that's neat. So Xfinity Series going back to Mexico. They got a sponsor on for it and everything.
Gotta wonder how much that's due to Daniel Suarez winning 2 races.
I think it has to do with a ton with that.
I hope so. I hope that's the connection they make. So let's get more Mexicans driving race cars.
And I mean,
sure.
we've talked about the diversity side of it. How much you just got to like Daniel Suarez as a guy anyway, just as a
super
cool
likable
fella. And then to have what has to be some crossover there, a significant portion of it to get him back into Mexico going. And wait till they get there. I just got goosebumps thinking about when they introduce him walking out. That place is going to go, just hog wild. It's going to be
think about this. Think about the hexagonal.
fiesta.
Let's switch over to the other boring sport that you and I both like a lot, soccer. We're coming up in the hexagonal to qualify for the next World Cup. The U.S. is hosting Mexico in Columbus, Ohio. Which fits for our interviewee
for
tonight.
Our guest.
Which means we will play. We always play a home and home. We will play Mexico at Aztec Stadium in Mexico City. How cool would it be if Daniel Suarez and NASCAR was a part of their marketing activation at a World Cup qualifying event where at Aztec Stadium they're going to have, 100,000 people?
Yeah.
That
compelling.
seems like a good opportunity for some cross-promotional stuff.
Either way, whatever they decide to do with it, I remember it was a big cost thing. The reason they pulled out of Mexico.
Well, the visa thing is a big deal.
That's a big deal. Or for some of the guys, the visa thing. Otherwise, just
you don't have to worry about rain in Mexico City, but visas are still a problem because Canada. That was the biggest problem with Montreal, with running the Gilles Villeneuve circuit in Montreal is. A, they get a lot of rain. B, visas are daily specific. If you had to open it up to another day, not only do you introduce a whole lot more logistics cost, you introduce a whole lot more logistics.
Yeah,
visa.
It's harder
stuffs,
too.
Worky stuffies.
Yeah, and not as much for the people because you can just go to Mexico with passport, but also
that's not even an expensive flight, y'all. By the way.
Yeah, but also you got to haul 40. 50, 80, 100 trucks worth of stuff across the border. That's a logistics nightmare.
Yeah, well, you got to figure at least 15 teams are bringing 2 trucks. And they're all going through, what's the one on the border of San Antonio?
El Paso?
No, not El Paso and Juarez are
Juarez.
sister cities.
Yeah.
I forget the one that's on the other side of San Antonio. That's the one that actually makes more sense if you're coming from Charlotte. But they all have to go through that gate.
Yep.
Big truck. Full of really expensive stuff.
Yep.
Mexico doesn't like that.
Yeah.
We wouldn't like it if they were trying to do the other way.
Well, and then when they come back, they got to do it. They got to do it all.
And they got to go. They got to do it twice.
So they figured out a way, essentially, that it makes sense to go through that hassle.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
I like it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I do too. I'm excited to see that. Good picks on the race last week. What can I say? Had to be happy about Kenseth.
Yeah, you led 114 laps, and I finished third, so I don't think we sucked.
116 laps, Andrew.
Oh, excuse me.
It's all good. You ready to gas it up?
Yeah, let's gas right on.
Gas it up. Going to Dega. The big Dega. Hello.
I feel so bad for everybody at Dega right now because they're freezing their what's off.
Ooh,
with the wind.
Yeah, the wind is,
that means
the wind is crazy.
The beads may not come into play as much as they should. I hope the women are gassed up. See, ladies, if you get gassed up, disrobing doesn't really become near as big a problem.
I don't know about all that. All right. Guessing up. We're going to
I made somebody uncomfortable in this room.
Yeah. It's talking about naked women in the...
Hey, Spotter Brett was all over it on Door Bumper Clear on Tuesday, all right? I didn't say anything he didn't say. Actually, Kristen Bauer did, too. She was all over that. She's like, bring the beads.
Well, good job. Yeah, great idea. And that brings me to Rusty's soapbox.
Do I need to set it down and build it for you?
Yeah. Give me a soapbox. Give me a podium. We've had some. There's presidential debate stuff going on, so I'll get on my debate hat and all that.
Shut your mouth about that thing.
Let's talk politics, Sherwin. Trump or Hillary? Who's it going to be?
I'm out of here.
No. So I got to tell you, you go to Dega, the excitement around the people who are going right now is just off the roof. I mean, they are off the chain, on the roof, whatever thing. Everybody's really excited. I'm disappointed that I'm not going, kind of. Like
I'm considering trying to convince you we should go, like the day in, day out thing,
right? And the people are, it's amazing. I mean, we've been there
They love
once
that
before.
place.
The camping is incredible, even though we kind of got washed out a bit.
Oh, I sent a picture out.
Yeah, we had an absolute blast still, though. I mean, still some of the best
It's
ribs
still awesome.
that have ever been made.
That's the best ribs
in a
ever been cooked in a
$20
NASCAR
smoker.
campsite.
And had an absolute blast. Came back with a bunch of stories. The only part I don't like is about the first 180 laps of the Cup race.
Yeah, like with the
Dang it,
first, so it's a 188 lap race, and the first 186 of them don't matter.
It's cars
They
going
don't
around in
matter.
circles.
They don't matter.
So,
I
don't know what to say. So I've boycotted Talladega races for the last
you and
2
I both.
years.
And I'm gonna give a high.
watched-
We're gonna go all the way across here and do a real high five.
Boom.
I watched 0 laps of the spring Talladega race.
Yeah.
None.
I don't know. I really want to watch
I'm gonna watch
the race.
I am going to watch unless we watch in person. I'm gonna watch it, but it's probably because it's Chase, and maybe there's implications, and I think that's
what's compelling to me.
Manufactured excitement, but
It's what we have now.
that's what playoffs are.
Yeah.
Playoffs.
Yeah.
In every sport are manufactured excitement. It's just that other sports adopted playoffs 75, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So, it feels like, okay, that's the normal thing. So now we have playoffs in NASCAR. Cool. That means this thing is more exciting than it used to be. Okay, cool. Still, I want some tandem drafting.
You're going to bark up that tree until that tree's dead and
I'm
gone.
barking up there until the top of that tree's dead and it falls off and hits me in the head. And then I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what to say. I really hope. I would love to see something different, something more compelling than the pack racing. I have yet to hear somebody tell me what is so amazing about it. Other than what's so amazing about it for 180 laps, I guess is a question. Like for 10 laps or something, and they're getting up to speed, and then they maybe.
Well, so the argument, and we've talked about this before because we both have knowledge. We both watched old races just in order to gain some of that knowledge. The thing is, even in those old races where there was gaps that cars could sort of draft their way into and move up, like if you had a good car, if you were really shifty mentally, knew how to manage your car, you could fit in a gap. The first 180 laps still didn't matter. It was about not wrecking.
And that's the thing. These guys, that's all it is for them right now, too, the first 180. It's just survival till then.
There's no tuning at Talladega.
Right.
You don't put wedge in at Talladega. No. You don't. You just don't.
No. Well, we'll give him 2 rounds, put a packer in. No, he's staying with the pack. There's no reason to do anything to the car as long as you haven't been left in the dust by the pack.
And as Junior has told us, although they continue to say things different, I'll be very interested to see with Junior in the box with a microphone and earphones on his face talking. It'll be very interesting to see how he counteracts the booth crew that wants to try to tell us that they're running wide open all the way around the track for 3.5 hours for 500 miles, which is absolute bullspit. There are maybe 2 or 3 cars running full speed, full throttle.
Yep.
Excuse me, and they're the ones that are about to lose the draft. Everybody else is like,
because 40 cars are better than one.
Well, yeah, and it's like we all need to pit at the same time. Like I don't want to burn more gas than that guy because we need to pit together.
Yep.
And they know what the cars sound like under load.
That's the thing, and you're not. Nobody's going to get 2
And
seconds
you can't-
ahead.
yeah.
So there's no strategy involved.
There's no strategy.
There's like you
can't-
said, no adjustments.
If the guy out front mats it, everybody still catches him. So he's like, "Why the hell would I mat it? I might as well run 3/4 or half throttle and save some fuel and run a couple laps more."
Yep. I want to be wrong. That's the thing. I want to be wrong. I want to
really want to be wrong.
Yep. Real bad.
But I'm not.
We got a fan question. Pat Cleary at PatWolf13. He's asking us who's got the most pressure this week in Dega. And Pat had said he thinks it's Logano. He's probably the best driver in the series without his championship, and he's in a tough spot. You know, Logano is bubble right now. He and I think Austin Dillon.
100% correct. He's the best driver in the series without a championship.
I should pause for a second and say that I think that's a great observation.
If Dale Jr. was in his car today, I would maybe have a debate.
Mm-hmm.
Dale Jr. is not in his car today. Joey Logano is the best race car driver without a championship that will race this weekend at Talladega.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So he's on the bubble. I think if you're asking me this question, I say that he doesn't have the biggest pressure to win this week. He needs to do well, obviously, because he's a bubble driver. He needs to survive. He needs Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, and Chase Elliott to all four finish.
Well, most notably, he needs Denny Hamlin to wreck, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And him have a typical day for him in the last, let's call it, well, since he's been at Penske, he'll need to have a typical Joey Logano Penske day, which means he finishes top three or wins the race.
Or wins the race. I just got goosebumps on that for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, he has proven himself strong.
Did you watch it? Did you get a chance to watch any of their practice?
No.
The Fords are really fast. So Jimmy Johnson and Chase were kind of practicing, like figuring out like Jimmy's going to lead and Chase has to win basically to transfer, which is part of what we're talking about.
Yep.
And Brad just kind of like there's maybe 10 cars. Brad just kind of like he tucks in, gets behind a group, and then he pulls out, and then he passes a guy, and I mean basically just drove around Chase and then drove around Jimmy, and then Joey pretty much followed the same leapfrog like it was scheduled.
Yeah.
Like just whoop, whoop, whoop. And then next thing you know, the 2 and the 22 are out front of this little, pack of maybe 8 cars, 10 cars. And it was like, we hadn't seen practice like that at a restrictor plate race on a Friday in a while. Because normally they just really take it easy and work on, qualifying runs, single lap runs. But it was like, wow. Stevie Letarte and maybe Rick Allen. I can't remember who else was with them. Probably Jeff Burton. I think they had the full crew, the normal Sunday crew.
Yep.
They're like, wow, Brad's really fast. The Penske Fords are really fast. It's like, okay.
I would say.
So, I mean, in response to Pat's question, I would say, Logano probably can win.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably feels the most pressure being that we just bestowed him the title of best active Cup driver who hasn't won a championship yet.
Yeah, so I would say Denny Hamlin. And the reason is Denny Hamlin is obviously bubble guy, but he's outside right now. He's outside looking in. Joey is inside looking out. Denny is outside looking in.
And Denny could easily be the guy that we just talked about.
Right.
Best Cup driver without a championship.
Yep. And second is I think he just inherently has more pressure because people like us are sitting here talking about how Denny Hamlin is the king right now in this setup and everything of plate racing. And so for him to have the pressure of everybody knows he's got to do good and he knows he has to do good, I think there's a lot of pressure on Denny Hamlin right now.
He's not really good at that situation, as we've seen.
Yep.
Everybody thinks you need to do good. You know you need to do good. Hasn't happened yet. So until we see, there's going to be people get mad at me for saying this, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to say it with a very light heart. Right now, Denny Hamlin is the old school. Let's remove 4 years.
Okay.
He's a Clemsoner. He's
no.
He's the Clemsoning of NASCAR.
Is he going to Clemson? Yeah.
Like, when's he going to and it's not him. It's not necessarily even Denny. It's when is that number 11 FedEx team going to have that, oh, crap moment that takes him out of contention? So, I mean, the way to overcome that is to go win Talladega. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how you put that in the past is you go win Talladega.
Yep. Which we just saw Kevin Harvick pull himself right out of that hole from Charlotte.
For sure.
So
for sure.
and we know he's got it because he's done it, I mean, it's got to be like 3 years in a row that he's won his way.
It's definitely like 3 segments in the last 3 years that he's been with SHR where he had to win to transfer.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty impressive for sure.
Yep. So,
and at a track that, I mean, it's not like everybody went into it going, well, Harvick's definitely winning in Kansas.
Well, with all that,
and then he did.
I think it's time to do picks.
Are we doing some picks now?
We're doing some picks.
I hate picks for play
I do too. But you get to or have to go first, whichever the one it's called. With your great pick of Joey Logano last week.
All right, fine. I'm going pure sentimental since it doesn't matter and it's not going to work out. I'm going the number 5 Casey Kane,
Attaboy.
white and green, UniFirst sponsored Hendrick Motorsports entry.
Very, very cool looking car.
It is cute. It is good looking car.
Yeah,
but it's hard to find if you're used to the normal number 5
colors.
Yeah,
if you're used to the blue and whites. I'm going to go Brad. I think Brad pulls
That's a way better pick than mine.
Well, I think I'm going to say Brad or Denny, and I just said that Denny's got the most pressure.
I would have to punch you in the face if you said Denny, so we're good. If he ended up winning.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear the horn blow, so I'm going Brad.
What about that siren? I need to hear that siren.
Yes, sir.
I hope young Mr. Siren Ringer will do some fun stuff.
Soon as he wins, they're going to blow that thing out. They're going to have to buy a new siren once it's done, I'm sure. Anyway,
we got to talk to your, esteemed producer, the Frizz 11, about those other fun things related to the siren.
I don't know what you mean right now.
I don't either.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
We'll figure it out.
Dawsonville Pool Hall.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have another thing. Okay, yeah. Well, I knew that's where you were talking about, the what or who, rather, that you were talking about. Anyway, we're pulling some strings, trying to have some fun with somebody. We're being very mysterious. Let's go to Strange with Stang this week.
All the more reason to be mysterious.
That's right.
Or continue the mysteriousness.
Ashley Stang, she sent us a question again. And she's back, by the way. She's back. I think she was back last week. She's back in full force.
I think she's back in full force.
Wishing her the best.
Last week she was still sort of recovering, but
thank you,
made it in
Posse,
time
for
to give
well
us
wishes to her. And,
a question.
So she's got a question for us. She says this one's for her own personal entertainment, like not even for Posse as much as just for her. I know, right? What's the worst lie you ever got caught telling, and how long were you in the ish house for? And part 2, was it worth it?
Good grief.
Yeah.
Can we tell this without ruining any marriages?
Well, I'll tell one that's kind of funny.
Like the first thought I had was, not to drag this out, but the first thought I had was, I mean, is this as an adult, or are we talking about when we were children? I'm kind of like, you know what? Children doesn't count because children are going to tell a lie, or nah. So I'm thinking adult, and so you go ahead.
Back in college, we decided we were going to go down to Stone Mountain and watch a sunrise from the top of Stone Mountain, which means you got to leave here at about 3 a.m. so that you can get there by about 3:30 or 4. Climb
when the park is closed.
While the park is closed, climb to the top via a hiking trail they have. It's about an 800-foot climb up and about a mile across, and so. Our esteemed producer, the Frizz 11, she had a employee pass because she was working in Stone Mountain at the time.
Forgot that.
Yep. And so we piled, I think it was 6 people. No, it was maybe been 8 people, whatever it was, way more people than you're allowed to put into my tiny little car and drove over there and hid all but 2 of us. So there's like 6 people hid in the trunk and under blankets and stuff in the back seat, right? And so we pull up, and it's just me and one of the buddies in the passenger seat. And I show the pass, and I just say, "Yeah, we're here for work." And she lets us through, and we're like, "Awesome, let's go!" And so we start to make our way over toward where you climb up the mountain, and we get pulled over by a cop, and it was like, "Oh crap, what are we gonna do?" And he pulls us over, and he says, what are you boys doing? Blah, blah, blah. And anything you need to tell me? And, I mean, we know at this point we're busted. What do we, we don't work here. There's nothing we can do. And I said, sir, there's 6 people in this car right now. He looks and he goes, you got 6 people in this car? Yes, sir. So I had to, he asked me for my insurance. My insurance had just expired, and I had new insurance, but I didn't have the card yet. My parents had the card.
Oh, no.
So at 4 a.m., from Stone Mountain, I had to call my parents, and they wouldn't let me use any other phone. They said, well, you just got to find a phone. And one of our buddies had a phone, and I was like, any of y'all got a phone? And this hand reaches out from under the blankets with a phone, which was kind of funny. And
zombie style.
Yep. I call my parents. My dad comes down and rescues me. I had to call the house twice because
well, it was 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 4 in the morning. Dad comes down there and picks us up, and he has to take half of them in his car and the other half in mine. Funny story was once I drove back to college after that, because he only took us back to our house that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. But turned around and drove back. He's like, you all right to drive everybody back in your car? I was like, yeah. And he says, all right, this time don't have 3 feet of blanket hanging out of the door of your car. That's how we got caught. That's 3 feet of that blanket that we had covering everybody was hanging out the car door, flapping in the wind for the cop to pull us over. I'll tell you this much, though. If you want to call that a lie or whatever you want to call that, we, before you go to college, your parents give you that speech like, listen, if you ever need anything, just call me. And I'm like, all right, I'm cashing in on this one. Here we go. So
all my chips.
Yep, all in. Props to Dad. He never spoke another word to me about it. So I didn't actually get in trouble really for it. So no lesson learned? I don't know. Anyway, that's Rusty's story.
That's so much better of a story than mine. I don't even really want to tell one.
Well, let's close it out there.
In all honesty,
let's.
I don't have anything like that. That is too good. All my bad stories don't involve a lie as much as just bad feelings.
Well, me and you have been in some of those stories for sure. There's something about
I don't want to disappoint the women that follow the podcast.
Something about crashing a front loader into something.
Oh my goodness!
Doing this and that, stolen signs.
We've had some funny stories about crashing equipment.
Well, let's do it. It is the Jelly Bean Closeout Challenge. We want to thank y'all
Jelly Bean
for joining us.
Closeout Challenge. You get a mouthful of them jelly beans.
As always, this has been a blast. We have Brad on. We have some fun stories.
Brad Yunker is a good dude, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's retired. He's not retired.
Not retired.
Not retired at all.
Sure.
So Kutri is retired as a driver.
You don't know where to find us. Hey, first off, if you're listening to this and you ain't got a sticker, it's free. DM us your address. It's absolutely
get your
free.
damn sticker.
We'll send you a sticker. You stick it somewhere, you end up on our Hall of Fame.
Look, right on your calculator or your cooler or refrigerator, wherever you want to stick that thing back, window dash. It's a good spot for it.
You're going to have fun. Y'all know where to find us. Online, PETMpodcast.com, at PETMpodcast, Facebook.com. Search PETM Podcast.
Basically, just Google search that thing.
Just Google it.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Tailgate Mayor, at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Pregame Engineer at Pregame, capital ENG.
And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Thumbs up.